Back to another Dark Crisis one-shot, which there's been a lot of, with this one being titled Warzone, once again starring Red Canary on the cover, but not with Damian, Power Girl, Dr. Light, and Sideways, but with Wally, Joe, Spectre, and Raven. This comic starts off with the citizens of the world saying who their favorite superheroes are. A man says it's Superman, someone says it's Wonder Woman, and a guy says it's Booster Gold, but doesn't even know his name, instead refers to him as the funny guy in the blue and gold, who I presume is meant to be Booster Gold. But the final answer gives us the answer who they're talking to, and that is Linda West, DC's newest speedster and newest superhero. We then cut to Iris West reporting in on the attack at the Hall of Justice, literally right there as a demon Raven fights Spectre, which makes her know this might not have been the best idea, which I agree, Iris, I'm surprised Lois didn't show up. Anyways, it's Shaggy Man that attempts to get the jump on her, but she's defended by Linda Park, who has some banter with Iris over how they found Barry, but she expected that. She, although did not expect Linda to have powers now. Linda then runs Iris around the battlefield to protect her from a tidal wave from a fight between Tempest and some other guy, which, if Tempest caused, would have been a very awkward talk with Barry Allen if Linda wasn't there to save her, because that would have been his fault. I just couldn't imagine how awkward that would be. Hey, Barry, sorry, Iris is, she drowned in the middle of a fight on land. I had no part in that at all. Linda and Iris then save some kids who are trapped in the battlefield to bring them into the Hall's safe room that is up to the walls and weapons. They then come out of the safe room to fight back and save Ted Kord from Nocturna, which doesn't actually make any sense because we had already seen Ted Kord die issues ago in Dark Crisis. So I don't know what's going on here or what's going on with Ted Kord, because he did die at the very beginning of the battle of the Hall of Justice, and this takes place during it, and not necessarily the start, but more or close to the middle of it. So why is he alive still? Linda and Iris kick butt, including multiplex, which, while I think it makes sense for Linda as she's a speedster to be able to take on some of these villains, I feel like Iris having a fancy gun wouldn't really make her as much as a threat to villains like Warp, Captain Cold, and Multiplex. While I do think Linda will probably have a hard time going against Captain Cold, I do think that she could probably take on Warp and Multiplex. We cut to Jim Corrigan driving a car in the direction of the battle, who, if you didn't know, was formerly the Spectre, which he mentions as something he wishes to forget and retire from. He crashes his car into Frankenstein, who's weirdly been absent from his crossover despite joining the League in the very first issue, so now he goes by foot. He narrates over the Spectre and Raven's fight at the Hall of Justice, saying since him and the Spectre have been separated, he's been far more cruel. As we see, Raven is giving it her all, but Spectre does seem to be winning, even going as far as torturing Roy Harper in front of her. He then proceeds to just throw a bunch of different heroes at Raven, which I know is most likely to distract her, but I did find that funny because even though it's kind of silly, when you think about it, it's pretty effective because they are giant right now, so throwing her friends directly at her can definitely probably break her focus on fighting him. Anyways, Raven's been put to a spot where she needs to make a choice to say the words or not. Before she can, Jim jumps in thinking if Spectre as a host may be weaken him. But while it doesn't exactly work, it does give Raven a chance to fight back, and she actually wins this time, proving that Raven, in fact, has the power to take on the Spectre, which is pretty impressive considering the fact that Spectre is meant to be one of the most powerful beings ever. We then get a random story about Nubia that has absolutely nothing to do with Dark Crisis. Now, I want to say I love Nubia as a character, and I think the story is pretty good, but it's just really random to have in here, because it's not even a backup issue. It's like mid-issue, it randomly turns into a Nubia comic and just kind of doesn't even focus on the Dark Crisis. But because of that, I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but it is pretty good. Yara even shows up in it. We then also get a quick story about Joe and the Lanterns, which I'm also not going to go into because there's really nothing there I can deep dive into. All I can say is that she's fighting the darkness, and yeah, that's really it. It's really just a couple of panels of fighting the darkness with some pretty funny banter. It is actually really, really quick and in a total different art style. So I actually thought I was reading a different comic book at first because I have it digitally, so I thought I clicked on something by accident. Joe's, in my opinion, a pretty okay character. I know a lot of people dislike the character due to her solo comic having a political commentary, but I liked it. Not as much as Yara Flor's one, though, which is disappointing considering the fact that Yara only got a 7-issue series. Anyways, back to the main store, Red Canary is returning with everyone else from the monitor space, where she picks a fight with Hyena, and really references him as a breed of dog when hyenas are actually closer to cats in relations, although are actually neither. Damian Wayne helps Red Canary, then berates her, saying that she needs to take cover, not thinking she can handle herself, while Sideways is just casually fighting a giant lion, which has nothing to do with anything, but I just had to mention it because I thought it was really funny. Red Canary sighs and listens to Damian, going to hide in the bus only for Dollmaker to actually be hiding there himself, but as he's about to kill Red Canary, she's saved by Black Canary, this being the first time they've ever met. Red Canary and Black Canary team up as former fangirls about it, to take out Nocturna and save Spoiler from her. What is Nocturna's deal? Didn't Iris almost kill her, or attempted to outright kill her, or at least knocked her out when she tried to kill Ted Cord? Why is she trying to murder everybody? I know that there's a lot of villains, in that Nocturna is a pretty powerful villain, but I don't believe she's the biggest threat on the battlefield. Why is she always the one we're focusing on here? As Darkseid is also in the battlefield, but we don't ever see anything from him except for a quick glance here and there, while we get Nocturna 2 times in this very issue and other issues. Which, I'm not complaining that much about Nocturna being the one, because I like Nocturna. I'm complaining because, isn't Darkseid in this battle? Why are we focusing so much on Nocturna? Anyways, they then get a quick origin for Red Canary, and that is when Black Canary was a singer, she inspired her, which is a nice callback to a canon that is typically ignored in Rebirth. Okay, maybe for a good reason, but I like the concept of the idea even if it wasn't executed well. Then another group of villains pop up, with Spoiler and the Canaries taking them on, with Red Canary taking on the female Copperhead. And she then tells Black Canary she doesn't know if she herself is a hero or not, because she feels like she is insignificant according to all of the other heroes here, because she has no powers. But Black Canary confirms she is a hero, because she couldn't wish for a better legacy than to inspire others to do the right thing, and that's what Red Canary is doing, which makes her a hero. This issue is a lot jammed packed into a single issue, but also the stories I think are kind of varying when it comes down to what this whole comic is meant to be about. For example, the Joe and Nubia stories feel very out of place compared to the others. I personally thought all 3 of the other stories were great, and even the Nubia one is, in my opinion, great, but it's nothing to do with Dark Crisis. And the team-ups out of the stories I thought were also pretty interesting. Either it's Black Canary and Red Canary, Raven and Jim Corrigan, or Linda Park and Iris West. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.